All right, cool. So we're back. Rich at Heart podcast. And we got our first female guest. One of my good friends. For a long ass time. Sharday Jones. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I'm glad you finally made it. I know we talked a few times about having you on and you know, blessing the table and sharing your much loved spirit with us. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Life be getting crazy. I'm glad I'm here.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So
And it snowed today, and I was like,
yeah.
Well, see, I got T-boned in my Scion that I had at one point, and I love that fucking car. And I got T-boned right up here because I used to live up here. And yeah, that traumatized me. I was fine. My car was fucked up, but I was like, oh, never again. Like a little car. So after that, I got a hefty car, so I feel safe now. But
yeah, you feel safer.
Yeah, feel safe.
That's good. Well, how was your Christmas? How did everything go?
Christmas was good. Yeah. Disclaimer, Christmas is not my favorite holiday by any means. I'm glad the shit's over. But I'm glad like all my family's here to still celebrate it. Yeah. And my grandma's 81. She was here looking fly. She got a new wig, looking good, had some lucky pajamas. So we go over there on Christmas Eve. Yeah. And this is some black family shit, right? So we have, I don't know, maybe like 8 or 10 family members that come on Christmas Eve. We go to grandma's house, open a gift, you know, eat pizza usually. Okay. But this lady, she's from Little Rock, Arkansas. She buys 8 boxes of Winco chicken. Yeah. Winco wings. Is okay. Fire. It's
She's actually fire. Good. Yeah.
That's what I had for breakfast this morning. Yeah. But so she buys 8 boxes and they're like full. Yeah. And so everybody's like, all right, we're gonna go. And we like still like all this fucking chicken on the counter. So like we're looking outside for people outside, like, y'all need some chicken? Right. Like we're trying to like offload it on everybody. Yeah. So long story short, we all have like hella chicken. I should have brought some wings.
I would have for sure ate some wings right now.
The Winco hot sauce, like the Winco hot sauce. Try it next time.
That shit's good. Okay. I think it's better than Reds. It's better than Reds and the other Louisiana one.
Yeah. The Louisiana with the yellow and the blue. Yellow. That's my shit.
Used to be KFC, but now it's that.
Yeah, Winco sauce. You gotta get that.
I'll have to get it.
It's only like 88 cents. The bottle's like 88 cents for a big-ass bottle. It's good. Just Winco brand hot sauce.
I'll get it next time. I didn't know about it. But those wings were fire. We just put them, like, reheated them back in the oven. Yeah. Yep. I was like, all right. But yeah, we still have hella. I might drive some more back over here.
Drop off some chicken. Do some chicken drop-offs for your friends.
I'll take it. Some real nigga shit. But yeah. So, Christmas Day, we just spent with my mom in the morning, my dad at night. So my parents are divorced, so we still have to kind of do the blended family thing because none of us have spouses. Nobody wants to marry us. So so we still have to like go between houses or whatever. And my dad cooks, and so he made red beans and rice, fried chicken.
Oh, hell yeah.
I made the cornbread and fucked that royally.
Oh, you fucked up.
But I was like downstairs getting ready, so I was like, T! That's my younger sister, and so I was like, take out the cornbread. She's like, girl, I don't know what this looks like. She's like, it looks fine. I mean, this wasn't fluffy like it should have been. It was just kind of, it still had some moisture. Yeah, it didn't rise. It was kind of flat. Yeah. So it's like, it's here. Y'all can get it if you want. Like, that's between y'all and Jesus. But it didn't get eaten. So, like, whatever.
Oh, that's sad.
But the rice was fire.
Okay, yeah. Red beans and rice is good.
My dad, he'll throw it down in the kitchen. So he cooks for us. And like I was telling you earlier, like, he throws down, he drank. And I had to be the DD for my younger siblings last night. Oh, yeah. So I was like, this isn't fun. I'm the drunk one. But, no, it was good. Holidays were good.
That's good.
I didn't get shit.
That's good.
Do you like Christmas and stuff, too? Or do you feel it's stressful? Like
It's more stressful now.
I know my nephew, Royce, your son.
Yeah.
He's kind of a bougie. Like,
he likes expensive gifts.
Does he still like that? Or
yes, yeah. It's a little bit less because now he has a sister, so he understands he has to, share, split. You know, his gifts and shit like that. Right. But he still expects expensive shit and he wants like a lot of gifts, you know. But I love Christmas, man, because I don't get to see a lot of family a lot anymore, especially on dad's side. Yeah. So it's good. And we grew up in a divorced household too. So, and our dad's family, they're Catholic, so they celebrate it on the 24th. Oh, so everybody would open their gifts on midnight. Right. And back in the day, we'd go to mass. I'm glad we don't do that anymore. Because that shit's boring as fuck. You're just sitting there, the priest is just going on, and the incense are coming, and you're just like, oh, we got open gift shit.
That's not like the stand-up, sit-down situation. I went to,
yes.
I was like, this is a workout. We ain't coming back here.
We ain't coming back here.
Going back hurt.
Yeah, you get those fucking
got bad knees.
Those benches they got in the Catholic churches are not fucking comfortable at all, bro.
Invest in some cushions.
Something. Man. But it's cool because for that reason, like I go and Christmas Eve I got drunk. Like I was gonna come back home. My car was having some issues, and so my dad was like, just stay here. And I was like, that's the magic word. I'm just gonna drink everything in the cabinet then. And my cousins drink out there, so we got lit, nice and lit. And then yesterday, so for Christmas Day, which we've always done, we go to my mom's house, our grandma's house, and then our sister goes and her family and everything like that. So it's cool. It's a little different now that like I'm, I have the kids and their mom and stuff like that, because now I got to go to her parents' house too. Yeah. So I got to split like half the day at grandma's and then the other half of the day over there. But I get to eat some good ass food because we had chile verde and tortillas, like homemade and shit at my grandma's house. And I go to fucking her parents' house and we had fucking like roast, but we had like collard greens and all that good shit. Yes. Macaroni and cheese. Like her brother hooked it up. Her mom usually makes the mac and cheese, but her brother hooked it up this year.
Ooh, they trusted it.
Yeah. And he fucking killed it. Like shout out Junior. That shit was fire, bro. That shit was so good. He did it with cream of chicken. Like he added that to the mix.
I've seen that recipe.
And that shit was fucking good.
The torch has been passed.
Yeah, the torch has been passed.
You gotta find somebody to pass the torch to with the mac and cheese, because you can't just give it to anybody. Right. Not just everybody could do the mac and cheese. So good job, Junior.
Is there any other traditions and stuff that you know of, like either friends or family or I don't know?
So my ex is poly, kind of similar to like what you guys have to do now with the two families. So her family, they wait until midnight and then they open all the presents. They go from youngest to oldest. And in a poly family, there's hella people and hella kids, so that shit goes to like 4 a.m. And they all get hella gifts too. And they have a big gongai that's basically like an eating, just like a feast, and they eat together. So when we were together, like we had to do that too. I had to go to my mom's and my dad's and her parents, and then watch her nieces and nephews do. And I only have 3 nieces, so that's not a big deal, but so I don't envy the traveling and all that stuff because like I said, we don't have families, so we got to hit up everybody else. But like no crazy traditions, like just kidding, I lied. So for the last like 4 years, my family, because like we don't need a lot, like we're a very humble family, like we don't really do gifts and stuff like that. Or like we don't really need gifts. Like we're blessed with a lot of things and love and all that stuff. So I started saying like, well, why don't we just like get some names off like the angel tree, or like going to the church, or like, the homeless shelter, like whatever, and just grabbing some names from the kids. So I would coordinate with my family. So instead of buying stuff for each other, we would do that and get the gifts, and I would take them back and, get them wrapped and stuff like that. So we've been doing that for the last 4 years. COVID kind of put a wrench in that. Yeah. So like this year we didn't really get to do that, but we still didn't really get each other a whole lot. It's just about being together. Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's like what we like.
Is it hard for you to stay up till 4 a.m. now or stuff like that? Or
hell yeah.
Some nights I can do it, but most nights I just have to I'll sleep earlier.
Yeah, I go to sleep.
I need
fucking
rest.
early now, and I make sure the kids are asleep. Yeah. Like the kids get their melatonin, shit like that. Right at 8:30, they're asleep by 9:30, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed by 10. Yeah. And it's rare that I actually stay up now, unless I'm going out, like, unless my friends are in town, like Paul's in town, or somebody's in town, or like a cousin's in town. I'm like, okay, I got to go out, hang out, and drink, and if I have to, I can soldier my way through it. You know what I mean? But nah, most days I'm going to sleep.
So melatonin's a real thing amongst parents.
It's a real thing, yes. It's like a life hack. Like, whoever started doing that and then just shared it with everybody else to do to their kids, like, man, God bless them.
I just thought you guys were like joking. I'm like, you just give them melatonin. Yeah. And any point, they're like, it's natural. I'm like, oh, okay.
Just little gummies.
Little gummies. Yeah. Yep. I hear like light is what hinders you from producing melatonin. So people who go to sleep with the TV on or something like that, it doesn't produce. So you get the supplement for it or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Or the screens and stuff.
Yeah.
You excited for New Year's?
Yeah, I was just about to say like New Year's plans don't really have any. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but definitely
we're having it here.
Okay, definitely gonna be doing some drinking. What do you got planned for New Year's?
Oh, my sister said that too. She's like, whatever you're doing, I'm doing. I was like, bitch, I don't know. I don't know yet. I have no idea. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to go too ham because like this past year, like single life is been doing a lot. I'm like, all right, my body needs to reset. Like, I just need to. So I don't know, but I say that and then something crazy will pop off. So I don't know. I'll let you guys know.
So what has your relationship status and stuff been like? I don't know.
Yeah. So I was definitely off the market for like the last 8 years.
Oh wow.
I'm back. I was kidding. So I was in a relationship for the last 8 years. Did the whole like living together thing, bought a house, 2 dogs, lesbian life. And then just didn't work out. Like it got to be a lot. Like you don't really know how living with the person, like that's when you really get to know them, especially for that long. And then like people don't really talk about family dynamics and like not every family gets along and not every family like loves each other and like it's a lot of work. Like you have to want to make it work. You have to kind of go above and beyond. And at some point you can only do so much. Right. And just personality differences sometimes, like goals like are just different over time and you just realize that maybe like I don't want the same thing you want. But I feel like if you care about somebody enough, like you'll make concessions and not necessarily give up on what you want to do, but like you just kind of have to let your partner grow and let them explore new things because they're not the same person that you met 8 years ago.
That's so true.
So many things are changing, different things are happening, your interests are changing, just you're growing up, your body, you're physiologically, you're changing. And so I just don't think people give each other in relationship enough grace to change the way that you should. Yeah. And so that's why a lot of relationships, marriages sometimes just don't work because you don't realize, like you don't think like this anymore or like you don't agree with me on that anymore. Like instead of like talking about it and like understanding, it's just like, we're just too different. We can't do this. And I was probably the one who was just like, we're too different. I just can't do this. But there's just certain things you want to put up with and certain shit that you can't. And it's a long time of your life. I'm probably one of the few people like from our class and in our generation who isn't married with kids. Obviously, I chose a different lifestyle. So, that looks different, which is fine. Right. But, I think everybody wants that companionship and that person. But what I'm learning in this generation is that's not true either. Monogamy isn't necessarily a thing.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of that, I was gonna share the article with you, but I ended up sharing it with. Did you read the article I sent you?
I didn't.
Anyways, I'll just kind of.
I didn't.
So the article was written by a guy who's been a relationship therapist for like 25, 30 years, right? And he wrote an article about monogamy and how he just doesn't think that the like cultural norms of monogamy apply anymore, and they haven't for a long time. It's just that it was easier to hide your infidelity or whatever you want to call it back in the day as opposed to now, and so he's like, I find more that women just don't want to be monogamous. He's like, the like cultural like stereotype is men want to be out, messing around and stuff like that. But he put it like when a man is comfortable or when a man is in a relationship, he's in the relationship. So then it's when he's not comfortable in the relationship anymore or he's going through like, just a life crisis or something that he does go out and commit, sleeping around and shit like that. But a woman, from what he's found, women tend to have multiple relationships with people, sometimes physical, sometimes not physical, but they have these like friendships they build at work with other men or at the gym with other men or at church with other men and stuff like that. It's just part of their nature because as like, civilization was developing, women could have their choice of men. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is. Like they're biologically programmed that way. So that if they're attracted to somebody, they're just attracted to them. They're going to go with that, chemical reaction, that attraction. Yeah. And he also explains in that same article why men shouldn't chase women that they want to pursue, only open themselves up to women who respond to their, their openness toward like how they like them. Because
I kind of like that. Yeah. Somebody's going to receive who you are.
You're right.
Rather than you, pursuing something that's not for you.
Yeah. And he was saying, like, when it comes to sex, that if you pursue a woman who doesn't really give you the same, reaction back, like you're physically attracted to them, but they're not quite physically attracted to you, or, they have a little bit physical attraction, but they're not like, oh, fuck yeah, I like you, let's go ahead and do this. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't pursue them. Because if you talk them into sleeping with you or, spend enough time with them to do it, it's never worth the wait. You want to get with somebody who's going to immediately respond to you in the way that you're responding to them.
But you got to have fun too.
Oh, yeah. But it's not, not even just with the same person, but just over time. You only go for the people who go for you type thing. It's basically what he was saying.
Well, that's going to lead to a lot less disappointment also.
Right.
For sure. Your ego isn't going to take such a hard blow if that's the scenario you take. But something you said about women also having that desire to seek out multiple partners, that definitely hasn't been explored, and that's definitely been suppressed over time. And that's definitely something that we're starting to embrace a lot more. Because especially like when we're growing up, even now, it's like if I sleep around with X amount of men, whatever, I'm a hoe. But y'all do it like, oh, they're just men being men. Right. No, like we are sexual people also. Yeah. Like we were made to reproduce as well, just like you. It's just in a different way. And I think that as long as men and women, or whatever combinations are happening now, like can understand that like we're sexual beings first. Like that's more or less what we were put here to do, is reproduce and procreate and on some level. Like I feel like women just weren't supposed to enjoy it. Like now women are saying like, no, I like to. I don't know how much we can stay here. No, but we like to fuck too. Yeah. Like, and we're not, and everybody puts this label on us that we're like such emotional beings, and like we get so attached, and like, oh, if like we fuck with her, she's gonna be blowing my shit up and she's crazy. No, we can smash and dash too, nigga. Don't call me back. Like I was using you for a situation as well. Like, don't think your ego's so big to where like I can't like. I don't need you either. And I think that's kind of starting to maybe weigh on men's, again, like egos, their manhood, to be like, oh, was I just used? Right. Like, this is how we have been feeling for a long time. And now you guys are starting to maybe feel that too. Yeah. And it's not a great feeling. And I think it's easier to call us hoes than to admit that your feelings were hurt.
No, yeah, so that's true. That's so true. Yeah. And it's fucked up because like that's just how it is. And like culturally, we've been put into this like hyper masculine, like, oh, the man has to say what goes, and like the woman can't, you know what I mean? But speaking to that point, if you read books, which I've read books like Casanova's diary. So they published it into a book, right? And Casanova's supposedly the guy that was like the upper echelon of ladies' men, right? But in his book, he explains that he only went for women that would receive him. And there was women who I think he was in France or something like that. There was this particular woman he writes about where all the men were trying to call on her, right? And it wasn't like, she wasn't looked at as a whore or anything like that. She was just a high society woman. And if she wanted to sleep with you, she'd sleep with you. And she usually only slept with guys who were like upper echelon, right? Yeah. But nobody thought any different of her. Nobody thought like, oh, she's a whore, you know what I mean? No, because she carried herself well. Yeah. She came from a good family and shit like that. So she had her right to choose who she wanted to be with. But now, like in the society that we're in, especially like in American society, you know, for the longest time, it was like, okay, women have to be like, you know, these like upkept, you know, virgins and like, you know, fucking modest and all this stuff like that. But now we're coming to an age where women are like, no, like, you know, we're sexual beings too, like she was saying, and you got to respect that. You know what I mean? Because I could just want sex from you, and that's it. And I mean, shit, if we were all more open with each other that way, and like communication was wide open, I think shit would be a lot better and people would get a lot less feelings hurt, like you said.
Yeah.
Nice. But don't you think women are like kind of kind, so they don't want to tell them just straight up sometimes? Like they'll give it to them a little
Depends
easy.
Depends on the woman. Some of these women out here are savage. But for the most part, like we're more nurturing, like we want to we're comforting, like we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. But as like time moves on, we're just like, these fools don't care about us. Like we like why? Like, you know what I mean? Like it
depends on the guys too, right? Because you can be messing with guys who are like straight dogs, or like, you know, guys who are, you know, playing the game, like and not genuine guys. But, but yeah, sorry to cut you off.
But no, I'm just saying like that's kind of where we are, and I know that there's more open discussion now about like what monogamy looks like, what open relationships look like, what polyamory looks like. I'm not mad at any of it. I think it's just people actually just being honest about what it is they want, and I feel like that's going to make a relationship last longer, like once you have a discussion about it. And it also has to, like, the person has to be, they have to be open. Obviously they have to be open to that, but I know it's cliche, but you really have to just be comfortable with yourself to be able to say, like, I'm okay with my girl going out this way, getting smashed. Like, she has to be okay with me getting, like, vice versa. But I just think, like, we're so ingrained with, like, pride and ego and, like, men need to be men need to be men, like, what your reputation is and how you're perceived by others. And, like, we have kind of lost the autonomy to, like, think for ourselves. It's like what our counterpart, like what our peers are thinking and how they think, and family members. I think family is huge. Like, family is huge because, like, especially us, like, we're in our 30s, so we're getting along there. But it's definitely different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you go to your mom, y'all's mom, and be like, Mom, I think me and my partner, like, want to explore this and that. She's like, what the... Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know if, like...
It's weird, She'd probably be cool.
Yeah.
Let her know. That'd be desperate.
She's like, well, tell me more. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then you don't explain that to your parents either. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we just have to get to a place of just, like, just being open about, like, what you want, because so many people are unhappy just because they don't feel like they can be themselves. And, like... Even for me personally, like, I know, like, if anybody knows me, I'm just, like, kind of a friendly, flirty person by nature. I'm very much a one-person person. But at the same time, like, I can understand how you can have love for multiple people. And I don't mind seeing what that looks like. Because also, I'm a kind of person who needs a lot of alone time. Like, as much energy as I exude, I need that back by myself tenfold. So when you're in a relationship, like, you're expected to be that person's everything. Like, their therapist, their lover, their best friend, their advice giver, their mechanic. Like, you have to do everything. And, like, no one person can fulfill all of those roles. Like, that's exhausting. That's going to burn you out. That's going to make the relationship a lot more strenuous, because, like, you're trying to be someone's lifeline and you can't. And so for me, if I had another nigga or bitch that was like, I'll take him or her from you for a second so that you can regenerate or rejuvenate. I'm like, bitch, thank you. I don't mind that. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'm a pretty secure person in that way. But yeah, I think
I'd say try it out.
I'm not opposed to it at this point. I tell my sister all the time. I'm like, she's like, you weird, but I support you. I'm just like, I don't have time to give this much time to, like, a person, especially being in a relationship for 8 years. It's just like...
a dog mom, too.
And a dog mom. And them motherfuckers, they take up hella time and money. And don't get me started on them. But that, like, going to school, I own a house, like, I work full time, like... I do a lot, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, sometimes the partner gets put on the back burner, not intentionally, but you do it. So I'd rather have an open relation or communication to say, like, what is it I need? What is it you need? And for me, I don't think it's weird because, like, do you think we're really supposed to mate with, like, one person for the rest of our lives? Like, yeah, like, we might settle down with one person because, like, you've went through that
and
cycle.
Build a life with that person.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful, but I might be just jaded by divorce. And that's what I say. I'm just like, like,
well,
it's experience.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that it's as bad as people think it is. Just as society, has those stereotypes of like, oh, you should be this, you should fit into this mold that we built because that's how you should be. Yeah. But not everybody fits into that same mold. We're all different people, you know what I mean? But it's about your intentions. If you go into a relationship with the intentions, like in explaining those intentions, you're going to be a lot better off, because I've been in relationships with people that I probably should have told them my intentions, that I wasn't like looking for anything super serious, but I go into the relationship, you date, one thing leads to another, and then that person gets really attached to you, and you're like, fuck, like I should have, just from the jump told them like, hey, I'm not ready for this, or, I want to date other people and shit like that. And you don't set that proper intention, and then all of a sudden it all breaks down and it's ugly, right? And as a young man, I didn't understand how to communicate that because I thought, okay, I have to be like the guy, and like, if I'm dating a girl, I got to be good to her or whatever like that. But it's only so long you can put that up before you can't give anymore. You know what I mean? Like if you really love somebody, you give them what they need. You know what I mean? Like the kid's mom, like, I give her whatever she needs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As far as like my attention or whatever it may be, because we have a family together, so it's like a little bit different, you know? But I think if you just go into a relationship with intentions and you explain those intentions to one another, there'll be a lot less of that kind of like bumpy shit.
But sometimes it's good to go in with no expectations too, though, right? Because it's like you got to give somebody a chance to want and see if they even want everything with that person.
But I think expectations and intentions are different. Like intentions, you're like, okay, this is what I intend to do for you, and then everything else that comes.
Intentions, but the outcome could be different from what you intended.
First. Yeah, and communication too. Though you got to have that communication with one another. If it's not working,
maybe they might not even give you a chance if you're straight up with them and be like, well, this is only what I want. Like, okay, well, it's all or nothing, so let's just not do anything. So I don't know.
But when you go into a situation just from male's perspective, like with no intentions, that's always hard for me. I'm like, so then what the hell are we doing here?
Right, exactly.
So why are you talking to me? Like what do we do? Just like hang out? Like do I flirt with you? Like are we just homies? Cause like for me, I'm very like interchangeable. Like I can be one of the dudes, like I'm a girly girl sometimes, like it's difficult for me, especially with men, because like a lot of men see me like, oh, like Sharday, like she's hella down, like she's cool. I am, but like later on finding out like, oh, like you were interested in me. Like I didn't know. Like I thought we were just like hanging out. Like you know what I mean? Like we didn't discuss anything, and there's like, well, you just didn't give me the vibes, or I didn't know. Like, well, I didn't know. Like so I'm just like, how was I supposed to know that? So I'm just feeling like, depending on the situation, how do you go in with no intention? Like, then why are you giving that person your attention if you have no intentions?
Yeah.
So
it's so true. I just think a lot of men have to spend time figuring themselves out. As a man, we're kind of like thrown into the world in a way. Like we're in high school and shit like that. It's all about having fun and like you're having a good time every single day, pretty much. In between the school shit, and then you graduate or you get out of school and you go into the working field, and all of a sudden your life slows down. And then you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? But you still want to have fun because that itch is still in you. And then you start turning that attention from like hanging out with boys and stuff like that to like women, and start like, okay, getting girlfriends and stuff like that. True. So you got to discover yourself. You got to like, I really wish there was more classes for, both guys, girls and whatever to explain like finding yourself, like finding who you are, like defining your either masculine or feminine energy. You know what I mean? Because we all have both. Like men have feminine energy and masculine energy, and women vice versa. You know what I mean? So just taking time to discover that about yourself and understand like where those energies are, or how high those energies are, whatever. And then you can have better relationships, better friendships and stuff like that. And a lot of these problems would probably be less of problems.
So Steph Curry, his relationship is open, right? Did you guys?
That's the rumor, yeah.
So would you be able to do that? Would you personally? Because you're in a relationship, could you handle that?
I need to mix a drink up.
And we have thoughts. We don't have to say anything. I won't get you in trouble or anything.
I ain't getting in trouble with nobody.
No, it's funny because like we know and she knows people that are in open relationships or like thruples and shit like that. I love that word, thruple. Oh, you do? I love that. It's a couple, thruple, 3 people relationship. But we know people that are in that and it works out, right? Okay. And then you see these celebrities.
Roman said what?
I don't know these people. I don't know these people. So that's why.
And you see like all the time. Let me know. But you see all the time, like it comes out like celebrities have these open relationships and stuff, right? Yeah. And it calls back to like high society people, right? Because they know like if Steph and Ayesha Curry are in an open relationship, well, that's the rumors that they are, right? Yeah. But if they are in an open relationship, they're high status individuals. Like together they have a fucking empire, basically. Yeah. She has her like cookware and shit that she sells. And they have a fucking foundation for kids that they both, invested in and are making money from that. He's one of the biggest NBA stars in the world right now.
Mm-hmm. You said top 3 or top 5?
Steph?
Yeah.
Oh, he's one of the top. I would say he's top 3 for sure right now. But they got like a fucking huge like life. You know what I mean? So they have room in their life to give attention to other people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because he's always traveling. Yeah. She's probably traveling for business and stuff like that. Yeah. If they have that agreement and an intention with one another that, hey, it's just a fling, it's just a hookup, right. It's not going to do anything. I'm not going to let anybody outside interfere with our life. Right. Then they, you know what I mean? They can do that. They can work that out. I mean, some people, they just do it on their own and they go out and they don't tell their partner and stuff like that, and they just want to have sex with other people and stuff. And they just might have a high sex drive, who knows? But I don't know. I think it's different when it's like high class or high level individuals versus regular people. But as long as you can come to a mutual agreement that that's what you want to do, I can't say I wouldn't be open to it.
So would there be any insecurities? I mean, of course there'd have to be some, right? But like,
of course.
How do you struggle with it, or do you like talk about it, or do you or just keep it separate? Like, I trust you. I don't need to hear about it.
If you have that intention, like you intentionally let each other know, like, okay, the outside stuff is just the outside stuff. Like it's never going to affect our circle, right? Here's the circle of our life, the kids, the money, whatever it is. You know what I mean? The house and shit like that. Yeah. No, I'm not going to let any of that interfere with this. Yeah. Then there's a little less insecurities. Yeah. Where people get insecure is that this person's going to invade and take your shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like think about a married person. Like you're married, right? So like. Yeah. If something were to happen, another person came into your wife's life, or your vice versa, they would be taking a part of your significant other's life. You know what I mean? Cars, houses, money, and shit like that.
The way I think of it is like, because it seems like materialistic, right? It's like people always go for the newer model, right? So like the younger girl or the more, better physique or whatever. Like that. That's what they think. And it's probably true, but that's like somebody who's superficial or like somebody who wants that as a status, to impress other people, not for themselves. It could be, but most of the time, just to be arm candy,
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say, like how you're, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying because like a Steph and Ayesha Curry are celebrities, like crazy celebrities, like their desire for like the openness and their reasoning for the openness, do you feel like that's different from like us regular everyday people? And do you think the way it's easier?
Yeah, it's just easier for them to get away with doing that.
Well, do you mean like get away with it by justifying it? Or like
justifying it.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's easier for them to justify
because it's doing. Like he's traveling, so obviously she's not giving him the attention.
For a relationship, it's just a fling. But if you do it like as a normal person, you could develop those feelings, relationship, and see each other, and take that time away from
and that's where the insecurities would come in. But
so like you would want it to be like a one hitter quitter. Like it's not like a person that you see continuously, repeatedly, but you're saying like. Us as everyday people, it might be like a more repetitive situation because like we're not jet setting to here to there for games, for appearances and stuff like that. So it might lend room for more intimacy.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah,
is that what you guys are saying? Possibly. Okay. Because I'm just like, even though they have all this money, prestige, fame, notoriety, all these things, I just like, she's a woman at the end of the day. And they've been together since they were 15. 15 and 16 or 14 and 15, whatever. Right. And they have feeling. There's genuine feelings there. She was with him before he was Steph Curry. And she's had to like kind of watch him evolve into this mega superstar. And she was on that
Jada Pinkett
the Red Table Talk, basically saying like I was like Steph's behind, like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like men weren't looking at me, like I wasn't feeling desired by men, like I wanted that, like, you know what I mean? So like she was expressing her feeling as not Steph Curry's wife, just like her as a woman. Like her as a woman. Because I'm sorry, no matter like Roman, you're married, you're damn near married. And so like you guys, you know, can't expect your women to like stop being women and stop wanting to feel beautiful. Yeah. And again, that goes back to your guys' egos where you have to know that men are going to look at them. They're nice looking women. Like, you know what I mean? And you have to step back and be like, yeah, I would look at her too. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? Instead of like, what the fuck are you doing looking at my, like, you know, not my bitch, but.
That's insecure though. I don't feel insecure. I feel like if somebody is able to get her attention and, you know, pursue her, and if she gives them that attention, then they deserve that attention. Mm-hmm. So I don't get insecure that way. So I don't know if that's a fault of mine because I'm not, you know, putting in effort, but I just feel like, I don't know, we're good. I trust her, vice versa. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Well, no, and that's insane. That's another level of maturity and security that a lot of men are lacking, especially in the age of social media that we're in. Because like you said, the newer model, like the Instagram girls, the big titties, the big ass, the cinched stomachs, like regular bitches don't look like that. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like we try, but like it's not ever going to be like that. So I always just try to tell like regular everyday women like myself, like that's curated. That's not real. That's their finest moment, and not even a finest moment. Right. They're at 4:00 in the morning, full face of makeup, filming something, shooting. Mm-hmm. They may or may not have somebody in their bed. They may or may not have happiness in their life. Like you have to like take all that into consideration. Right. So I'm just saying, like, while we kind of like try to separate like celebrity world from like regular world, it's very similar. Like the only thing that we maybe lack is the finances, like, you know what I mean, and the ability to cover shit up. Like we, if we're doing shit, like people are gonna know. Like Steph and Aisha can, like that lawyer thing that you sent me. I said, I said, ooh, I said, did that really happen? And it's fucked up too because that damn secretary. She ain't had no business. Yeah, she fire her ass. She's over here like.
And she tried not to do anything, but you know who it was about.
But we know who you're talking about, bitch. And then she fucking took it to TikTok. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they can't even feel secure going to their lawyer where there's like literally a confidentiality situation going on to discuss like how their lives are going to be run. Like, you know what I mean? So that's like one more, like that's just like another thing that like maybe a regular person would deal with also. So I think the only reason it's like a big deal is obviously is because it's Steph and Aisha Curry, and they have such a long legacy of love. Right. Like, you know what I mean?
And thinking about it now, like, as you just explained, I was just thinking as I was hearing you, I'm like, wow, maybe they have more problems because of this. Like, maybe the celebrity causes more drama with them having an open relationship than I thought originally. Because as a quote unquote regular person, right? You can, if you had that agreement with your significant other, like you would have far less of the public eye on you, right? Like maybe some family would think different of you. You have some more privacy. But then once that shit's out, it's going to be like all over because there's going to be people judging them, talking about them, and shit like that.
That's how they worked out the kinks because they have so much experience together
That's one angle to look at it too, right? Is that
because it's going to happen anyway.
It's going to happen anyway. So why not talk about it and do it?
And they solved the Rubik's Cube or whatever.
Because I remember like because like Will and Jada, they famously have like open relationships, right? They famously have that, like, and it's been for a long time. People have kind of known that about them, right? And then the biggest one that got the most like eyes on it was the August stuff with Jada and then the singer August.
Right? Too bad.
But for a long time, people kind of knew that they have this agreement amongst each other, like to an open relationship. But that does lead to their happiness in a way, they say, because they don't have that like, I got to keep an extra eye on her or extra eye on him, you know? They have that kind of like agreement. And like I said, it just goes back to like having that intention and like, hey, look, I'm not going to let anything outside interfere with what we have. You know, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this outside stuff like when I'm out on the road or you can't give it to me, whatever it is. Because that's another thing that I've read in a book that I'm currently still reading. but it talks about how like your woman's not always going to find you attractive. And you gotta respect that. She's not always gonna find you attractive. Like you like
sometimes
were attracted.
Like,
yeah, exactly. You were attracted to her. But even if you were at your tip top best shape, right? Even if you were at your tip top physical fitness and stuff like that, there's just some days she's not gonna be attracted to you because the way female attraction works, right? And so, and all you say, that's just how it's going to be, right? And so you got to accept that. You got to accept the fact that she's not always going to be attracted to you. And when she's not attracted to you, you either do something to make yourself more attractive, spend more time to yourself. Men need to do that more, you know, because it's always, and I've been guilty of this, especially as a young man before, you know, I started researching stuff and learning about myself. But when I was feeling like things weren't like the same between me and my partner, I would be like what the fuck, and try to like fix it or try to like you know go do things and like, you know what I mean, stuff like that, and it didn't work, and it kind of made me upset at myself or the situation. I was like, oh, then this ain't gonna work, you know. But now as a more mature man and somebody who reads and like understands things, I'm like, okay, she's gonna go through seasons where it's like that. When she's in those seasons, I need to use that as time for me and time to explore myself and build better on myself, whether it's intellectually, financially,
because there's things you can do physically. To make you more attractive other than just appearance.
Yes.
Like you actually being motivated and, you know, pursuing something. So
Well, that brought me to a different thought than what I was about to say. But the thing about us women is we are very much, of course, like we want like an Idris Elba or Michael B. Jordan or a Jason Momoa, like whatever. But we are very forgiving and like we don't necessarily need that. Like, you know what I mean? So like you said, taking time out to be like, to not be upset with her, like, why aren't you attracted to me? Or like make it about her. Like, you're like, okay, there's something in me that she's not seeing. Because for women, we see spark. Like we always see potential. Like we see something different in you. And sometimes you guys get really complacent. You're just like, I already got her.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to X, Y, and Z anymore. And it's not even physical. Like dad bods are in. Like I like a good dad bod. Like whatever. Like we don't necessarily, we want ambition. We want drive. We want motivation. We want, we just want that like get up and go, like about, like that's attractive to us. Like that's going to get us in the mood like way before like what the fuck you look like.
Physical stuff,
if you know, you took care of business, you fucking put gas in the car, like you made sure, you know, like Roman, you have a new baby. Yeah. Your poor wife is probably like, like, you know what I mean? Probably not with you. Like you're a good guy. Like, you know what I mean? But just like little stuff oh, I washed her blankets, she threw up on them, instead of like leaving them in the damn laundry room for her to come home and do that. Like, you know what I mean? It's little things like that. It's just like, oh, he cares. So it's not even like big things that we want, because I think men think like we want all this stuff. And again, social media plays a part in that. Like, oh, we want a Louis, a Birkin, a Fendi, a Prada. We ain't buying that out here in Utah. But I'm just saying, like, we don't necessarily want that. Like, we just want, like, get your money up or like do something that makes you happy, because you guys being happy, whether men or women, seeing our partners happy and pursue something that they want to do is attractive to us. We're like, oh damn, like he is cooking up in here in the studio. Like, I don't know what he's doing, but he's in a zone. Like, you know what I mean? That's attractive to us. Like, women, especially with men, we naturally want to be protected and taken care of, not because we need to be. We just need to know that y'all can. Like, you know what I mean? We don't need you to. We just want to know that you can hold it down when you can. So I liked what you said about, like, when you see that happening, you need to step back and look at it like, okay, like, what do I need to do? Instead of getting upset with her and being like, why aren't you like da-da-da? Or why aren't we having sex? Or like, why isn't this happening? Like, you need to figure out why she don't want to have sex with you. Like, you know what I mean? And fix that. Like, so I like that you were observant enough. And you've been in a long-term relationship. So all of these things are coming to you, but it's more or less like, it's just teeny tiny things. Like very, very few times with us is it anything physical, like about the way you look. Obviously, we got with you. Obviously, we married you. Like, you know what I mean? So we're attracted to you physically, like, you know what I mean? Because we have to be intimate with you. So like, that's not even the thing. Like, we want the drive, and like, we don't ever want the drive to stop. And like, you guys aren't always going to have that. But like, when you don't have it, then that's when we can pick it up. Right. Like, you know what I mean? But I just feel like always assuming it's like, you guys don't have to take responsibility for that is where relationships have a downfall too. So yeah. So that's why I liked what you said about like, read a book or learn something new, or figure out like what she's thinking as a woman, or how we operate. Like, you know what I mean?
It's so important, because I think a lot of times men only think in the perspective of men. And so we think that if you don't want to do things with us, like sexually, whatever it is, it's like, okay, then I'm physically unattractive, you know, or I need to do something better physically, or I got to, you know, buy her flowers or something like that. What we think, because we men are attracted mostly physically, right? Like I can be attracted to a woman physically and not even know them, right? You know, but women, like Sade said, they want more. They have a physical attraction for certain things like intimacy and stuff, but they also are attracted to, you know, all those other things like your drive and everything like that. But men don't take the time to get out of their own perspective. You know what I mean? They're just like, my perspective is my perspective, and I'm just stuck here, right? Yeah. So that's why it's so important to read or to like watch videos and shit like that of people who can explain these things to you. And then you just don't want to be the same person. No. You know? You got to grow. Like if I was thinking about this too as we were talking about all this, because like me and Lauren, we've been together for I think a year now. And before that, we've been off and on a lot.
So what?
But I was like single through 2020. I was single through 2020, and I dated through the pandemic and shit like that. I've had other girlfriends and stuff, and like she's had other boyfriends and things like that. But I think that made us better. And that goes to show that maybe sometimes you don't have to have that strictly monogamous one-person relationship, because I wouldn't have grown if I didn't go through meeting these other women and learning different things about myself that maybe she was comfortable with, but other women were uncomfortable with, that she would tolerate, but another woman wouldn't tolerate. And it made me turn the camera on myself and look at me and like, okay, well, what do I got to do to be different? You know, if I would have stayed with her and just in that relationship with her that whole entire time, I probably would have never grown as much as I've grown. I would have just stayed that person, and because she tolerated it, you know what I mean? So
on the flip side though, the people who, you know, like, from back in the day, right? They've been together so long. Do you think they even grew? They grew together. Like, they didn't have time to work on themselves, develop themselves. Right. And what I got to say, too, is like, and it kind of be funny, not to be too funny, but like... sorry.
We like funny.
Right, okay. But like, I feel like with guys, when it comes to beauty and stuff, like, it's never enough, right? Like, a guy he wants all the women, right? And it's never enough. But with girls, with ambition, is it ever enough? Like, is it to clean one thing or to do a to-do list?
Oh, it's never enough. It's never enough.
It's never enough, because they're always going to want more and more and more. So it's like, it's both sides.
You did the dishes, but you didn't fucking touch the laundry, motherfucker.
That's also a conversation. Like, it's a conversation of like, babe, like, what do you need me to do? Like, what do you expect me to do?
We gotta appreciate what we do for each other. Yeah.
And say, yes, we have to appreciate what we do. Yeah. And again, there's always an expectation, but I'm just wondering, because like you and Lo have been on and off, like, and ultimately it sounds like you guys came back together. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, what was it about like that time apart that drew you back to her and her back to you? Because like you saw different things in different women. Like, and I hear a lot of like, it's the kids, like Steph and Aisha, like they have kids, like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, if I was Aisha, I wouldn't be leaving. Just kidding. But I mean, despite the kids. But I'm saying, like, what put that back?
Yeah, I think multiple things, right? Like, I mean, the kids, of course, we're always going to be tied by our children. And we have that, like, we always have that mutually love about one another. We have kids together, right? But also, I think it's just, you know, genuine that we just love each other, you know, to an extent, too. Like, I had to learn, like I said, she's not always going to be super physically attracted to me, right? But she does love me. And I know that she loves me because we've always been in each other's life, or we've always come back in each other's life. So I have like a love for her. She has a love for me. We have a mutual love for our children. So as long as nothing is affecting that, and I'm not letting like some outside person or woman come between me and our relationship with the kids, then it's all good, you know? And I've tried to never let any of my relationships interfere with my relationship with my kids and her as the kids' mom. You know, where there's a lot of guys who they just don't have the willpower to keep other women out of that circle, and it's fucked their lives up. You know, I've known men who they have multiple like baby mamas, and it's not that the fact they have multiple baby mamas is the problem. It's that they let that woman come between them and the first child, or from the first child's mother, because they were jealous and stuff like that. Then they went and started this new family, and now they have a broken relationship with the first family. You know what I mean? But you can have multiple kids if it happens, right? You can have multiple kids with multiple women, as long as you have that, you know, that commonality is that those are your children, their children. It's, you know, you just don't let anybody get in that circle. You don't let anybody break that circle.
So what do men expect, like on the flip side of that, as Roman would say, on the flip side of that. So like what do men expect when you guys might not be as attracted anymore to your spouse? Because like sometimes like as women we be looking crazy, like my partner at some point, she's like, you have to wear that bonnet every night. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's the bonnet for like black women. Yep. Like, yeah, like we got the edges, like we got this hairstyle we got to maintain. There's like a lot, like, you know what I mean? Like it's not sexy, or, you know, there's just like a lot of things that go on in a long-term relationship, and you're just like, how do women, like, how do you guys deal with like the points where you're not necessarily?
I feel like you don't have to do much. Women are just naturally beautiful, you know, just as they are. What I love is when somebody puts effort into something. I don't know, like you could just see when somebody does something and they want to do something, like, and you know, when someone wants to be with you, like that's just everything, right? Because if you just hang out and stuff like that, and you know you want to be there, I don't know, that's just attractive to me.
Yeah. And I think another reason why we were able to come back together all the time, because I've always been physically attracted to her. I've never had a season where I was not physically attracted to her, right?
She got a big old booty.
And then there's women, which sucks. It's such a hard place to be as a man when you stop being physically attracted to somebody you're dating. Because I've been there. And it goes back to, because I was, you know, a younger man mentally, like physically, mentally and stuff like that. I was a younger man when I was dating some women.
And it might not be love though, right?
Yeah, it wasn't love. It was, I was physically attracted. Yeah, it was lust. And I wanted to, you know, be with them or whatever. Then I get in a relationship with them, and then that lust goes away. I you know, for whatever reason, once that feeling's gone and that that physical attraction's gone for a man and a woman, it's so hard to be there because you can't fake it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't fake it.
And
like
it's like coming to your senses.
It coming to your senses.
Do women have that?
Do they
ever come to themselves? Come to their senses?
Yeah, we be seeing the light. Like, whoa. Like, all right, this is it was nice. Like, we definitely have that. And I think like it's just like, I won't even say different. Like everybody's like, oh, like you like boys, you like girls. Like, what's the difference? Like, there are differences, but at the end of the day, we're humans, and like we all just like want the same thing. We want to be loved, we want to be desired, we want to be respected, and we want to be validated in the way that in the things that we enjoy, the things that we love, and like that's all. Like no matter if I'm with a female, no matter if I'm with a male, it's all the same. Like I just want a genuine respect. So I think like once you stop respecting a person, and just crazy shit starts flying out of your mouth, like that's really hard to come back from. Even really more than like physical. Like, fine, we could have not had sex for a year. Like, you know what I mean? But you never called me out my name. You never disrespected me. So we can get that back. But like once you start calling me all kinds of bitches and hoes, it's like, okay, Nick, like, okay. Like that's different for me. So that's what I'm saying. Like we just really want a mutual respect. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we, like, women will put up with all kinds of things just because, like, in our hearts we're nurturing. But I just feel like it's that mutual respect that keeps us around. So, like, if you can just be respectful, because in this room, we were all raised to be respectful, I would say, with confidence, right? Not all men were like that. They didn't have...
I feel bad for them because, like, maybe they can't control it or they weren't raised that way or something. You know? So, like... Yeah, it I don't know. I feel bad because maybe they have good intentions. They didn't mean it, but in that moment, they'll like freak out or something like that. And, you know, it just goes downhill from there.
Yep. It's crazy because some people just, even, you know, both men and women, they let their emotions get the better of them.
Women can do it too, but I think it's okay because it's just...
No, you know, I think so too. Like a woman... it's not, I shouldn't say it's expected, but they physically, that's how they are, right? Like their emotions are a little bit higher. That's what I've read in science and shit like that. And women
said I read that.
Women can feel different emotions at one time.
That means she cares. If she doesn't hate you, she don't care.
Yep. Yeah, that's it's true because a woman that doesn't care, you do something, they're like, oh, whatever, fuck it, like that's the last straw. But if she loves you, she'll freak out. Exactly. Yeah, and then you know what I mean.
They're like, what?
But guys that don't learn to check their emotions, you know, like maybe they didn't have like a good father figure or a mother figure, because I think our mother really is the one who instilled like being in control of our emotions to us at least.
Right.
But if they don't have that in check, it gets them in a lot of trouble because fucking testosterone. Once that shit kicks in, it's like a drug. You go black out like a goddamn great white shark, and you're fucking tossing shit. You know what I mean? Anything could happen.
Is that really a thing? Like your guys is like their testosterone levels, like
it can happen. I've been in moments
like
in my
you
life
guys just don't think with your head.
Yeah,
like it's just pure
animal
physical
instinct. It's just pure. I don't even know how to explain it. Just pure fucking animal instinct. Like have you ever been in a fight and like. Or somebody got you charged up for something and all of a sudden you fight them. It's just like you're gone. Like you're not even there anymore. It's just like a physical reaction. And then after it's done, you come to your senses and you're like, fuck.
Only thing I can admit is like we drive in a car or something. She's flipping out at me, hitting me or something. I'm just like, all right, I'm driving I'm going like 80 miles an hour. Like, I screamed, you know, like But that's probably it. That's where I draw the line.
But that's what I'm saying. You know where to draw the line. Like you know what's too much, and like it sounds like you guys had a mother to teach you how to, and a grandmother to teach you how to respect women. You guys have sisters that you would never want someone to talk to like that. Sure. Like you know what I mean. So it's a fine line because. It isn't nature versus nurture, like environmental things, like what you've seen, like, right? Like, I don't know what y'all seen, but like men who see their mothers get abused.
Oh, we've seen that. No, that's true though. But
like they'll go one or two ways. Like, I'll never do that, or this is how I know how to deal with a hostile situation or an argument or a disagreement. So. It really just depends, like, and it can go either way. Right. But I just feel like at the end of the day, like, no matter what your relationship is and, like, where it is, it's just a mutual respect. And there's just a line that you just have to be able to not to cross. And men don't have to put up with our shit either. Because, like you guys said, we're very emotional. Like, we're not above, like, putting hands on a man sometimes. Like, I've never done it. I've never put my hands on somebody. But... this is probably controversial and I probably shouldn't say this on camera, but like some bitches like they'll hit their dudes and like it's like he hit me back. Well, what you want him to do? Like you know what I mean? Like respect for those ones who just didn't, but that's another human reaction too, is protection. Like you're gonna protect yourself.
You protect yourself or whatever.
I don't condone, domestic violence at all. But me and my sister talk about this all the time. Mm-hmm. What did she expect? Like, you know what I mean? She's gonna hit a whole ass dude and all you got to do is hope and pray he was raised right. Yeah. And you don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean?
It wasn't the wrong day or something like that.
Yep, because make a whole lot of shit in and then if they snap, they snap. You know what I mean? It's sad, but it's crazy.
And I heard for the women that like hold it in, like say a situation happens or something and they can't express it to anybody or
that's so messed up. There's men that are like narcissists too, right? And they don't want their women to talk to anybody about certain things. Yeah. And there's men that will hit their women or abuse their women physically, and she has nobody to turn to because he's already cut off all her fucking social connections. You know, she has no friends or cousins she can turn to. She's by herself. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they just abuse that. They abuse her emotionally and physically because they're like, oh yeah, you can't tell anybody, you have nobody to go to, and if I do anything to you, you have nowhere to turn to. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's narcissism. That's just small ego. That's just insecurity. That's just a weak man. Yeah, in my opinion, like agree. That's just a weak man who can do that. But that's what I'm saying. So like, as far as like the Steph and Aisha situation, I'm not mad at it. If that's like a situation that they have agreed upon. Yeah. Who are we to say anything? That's what's going to make them last. Like, that's their relationship. That's where they're comfortable. Yeah. I give no damns what they eat. Don't make me shit. Right. So, like, and that's how I've always felt about my life, like, choosing to be lesbian, bisexual, like, whatever. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, again, what you eat don't make me shit, vice versa. So, I just feel like if it works for their family, as long as it's working for their family.
Right.
And obviously, we over here. But I literally don't care. But do you feel like just us living in Utah, because this is Utah, right? Yeah. So, like, living here, do you feel like we get, like, exposed to relationship life way early with, like, no tools, like, like, we just see it around us, even if we're not of the faith here.
Right.
We see it around us, and it's just, like, a thing, like, oh, I need a boyfriend, I need a girlfriend, I need to be in a relationship. Like, do you guys feel like that is, like, detrimental to, like, our relationship life and how, like, we grow?
Disney movies and stuff, right? Like a princess or something, she's, like, pretty young or something and then just falls in love. It's like, I don't know, it's like set up for you to kind of be that way.
It's part of the cultural paradigm. You know what I mean? And especially here, like, it's like small town syndrome, right? Where everybody gets a girl, they get that girl, they marry that girl or whatever. It's what you've seen growing up, right? Most people, you know, mostly of Caucasian descent, or of the common faith here in Utah, especially in Ogden and shit like that. That's how they grew up. It's like, oh yeah, my grandparents met in whatever at a young age, they married, had kids, and raised a family at a young age. So that's the expectation they have for their own lives, you know. But I think that it should be more explored on just how everything actually works, right? Like how you feel as an individual, because that's important right there. Like how you are as an individual. Are you somebody who can commit to one person? Are you a polyamorous person? You know, are you bisexual? Are you gay? Whatever it may be, just figure out who you are first before you start getting somebody else involved in your life, love life or otherwise. You know what I mean? But here it's too pushed upon people to be at a young age and have a girlfriend, get married, go, you know, a lot of these kids who are of that faith go and serve a mission and then they come back and get married because that's the expectation of the church, right?
There's pressure too, like in school and stuff.
Yeah, like, it's put upon you at school and shit like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even in school, like, even, like, the faith is strong here, but just, like, even in high school, I just remember, like, everybody was, like, booed up. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, like, I guess that's, like, normal. And, like, that's what you do as a teenager. You get a boyfriend, get a girlfriend. You go through a couple. But, like, I'm just wondering, like, you guys as, like, dads to daughters now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what would you want your daughter to... Not even, like, push up, like, would you want your daughter to date in high school? Like, would you want them to, like, are you guys gonna sway them any other way?
No, that's such a good question.
Like, is especially daughters, like, right? Yeah, because, like, you want to make sure that you guys have done your job and prepared your daughters for the world and prepared your daughters for men, or whoever at this point, like, you know what I mean? But is that something that you're going to press upon your daughters? Because I feel like my parents didn't. Like, dating wasn't really, like, a big conversation in our household. Like, and my dad was around. He's definitely around. It's like, I feel like that's why I'm more respected by men and, you know, the community. Like, I don't hear too many terrible things about me as far as, like, my sexual proclivities or promiscuity, but it's because I had a dad to kind of guide me and, like, you're more than that. Like, we're gonna push you to play sports, activities.
Exactly.
We weren't necessarily. So anyway, I'm just curious, like, you guys as dads.
Yeah. I think you just have her work on herself and have her have a goal of, like, okay, you know, it's okay to date, you can date. But if you date and get serious, you know, early, then it might hinder you from reaching this goal. Right. You know, and it might not, you know, but it might, develop more problems or more obstacles and stuff like that. Just kind of explain it that way. But how would you do it?
I'm so glad that I've had a daughter later in life, that I'm more, like, emotionally mature and spiritually mature and stuff like that, because I just want her to be a whole person.
Yeah.
I want her to understand herself and whatever she ends up being, because maybe she's going to have a high drive, right? Maybe she's going to like boys, be boy crazy. Maybe she's going to like girls and she's going to have, like, just a high, like, sexual energy. But I want her to know who she is and not suppress who she is just because of what my standards are for her, right? I want her to know who she is, and then just whatever she decides to do, full-heartedly, you know, relationships, otherwise, whatever. I just want her to be a whole-rounded person. Same thing with my son. You know, I was a young man when I had him, and I've gone through a lot of growing while being a father to him. And it's a little bit better now, but he still has, like, some of those old echoes of, like, when I was young and would yell at him all the time and stuff like that, right? When I didn't know how to be a man or a father. Okay. But now I'm so glad because of a female, it's different. To me, it feels different because she's not just physically, she's a little bit more fragile, but I know that emotionally she's going to have the weight of the world on her shoulders. You know what I mean? Women have a lot to deal with in their life. So I just want her to be prepared for everything. And hopefully she'll be open to tell me anything because I'm never going to judge her. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of dads out there who like judge their daughters or put expectations on their daughters and stuff like that. And especially in the Hispanic community, I feel like Hispanic men put a lot of emphasis on their daughters to be like pure and stuff like that. And most of them are Catholic. So they want, Virgin Mary and stuff like that. They want you to be this pure fucking nun. Yeah. And they lash out and they end up being the opposite because you're putting too much pressure on them.
They do it behind closed doors.
Yeah, they do it behind closed doors. And which is a way of acting out, you know? Yeah. And so it's kind of a toxic situation. So I don't want to ever put that on her to make her feel like she has to fit a mold. You know what I mean? I'm going to find whatever mold she fits in and be like, hey, I think you're actually this. Like you should probably pursue, this because.
So how do you physically? How do you like? You want them to be whole. You want them to. You want to tell them like if this happens, because my parents did that all the time. Like, we ain't gonna tell you not to smoke. We ain't gonna tell you not to do the drugs. We're not gonna tell you not to drink. But this is kind of what's gonna happen if you do it. So they really gave us a lot of free reign.
How do you feel? Like you seem like you came up great. And like, what advice would you give?
From having a dad and being a daughter. He really, first of all, so that's why I was asking, like, how would you guys do that? How do you instill, we might have an idea of like what we want it to look like, but how do you implement that? And so for me, having my dad around, he was like, during my parents' divorce, like he fought for custody for us. Like we saw him go through certain things to make sure that he had his kids. Like, and that was back in like the early 90s, like, you know what I mean? Like where men definitely didn't have as many rights as they might have now. So I saw my dad, number one, fight for us. And then I was involved in a lot of stuff, like just back then, even now, like for the most part, he's always there. Yeah. My games, he shows my support. He has a presence there in my life. He supported me. I came out, he was like, okay, do you want Taco Bell, Chinese food, like whatever. He's like, just keep the door open. Like, you know, like, I don't know what to do.
Deterrent from bad guys too, right? Because if they see a dad always around and stuff and caring and stuff, it's like, oh, well, I have to live up to his expectations. I have to,
Right, it is a deterrent for a bad guy.
So you want to have a guy who's willing to take on that challenge. Rather than somebody who's not there. Oh, this girl is probably free reign or something. Right. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, my dad was always, like, people knew my dad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my dad was there. He didn't, like, my parents never stopped us from doing anything because they had their own dirt that they were doing. So there's like, we don't want to be hypocrites. But I think maybe just like from me having a dad growing up and maybe having different experiences from my friends and different females who didn't have father figures is just like, I think just being present. Yeah. And just setting up your expectations for your daughters and letting them kind of interpret what that means for them. Because just your sheer presence being there is that's going to light something in them. And they're going to, not even disappoint. Because like you mentioned, like in the Hispanic community, like the last thing you want to do is like disappoint, especially your dad. Yeah. Like as a female, as a male, like you want to make your dad proud too. Right. Like, you know what I mean? But I think just like sheer presence and being open and soft and like being able to communicate, because some dads are like, oh my God, I don't want to talk to you about your period. Like I don't want, like, go talk to your mom about that. But like,
she would know.
Well, why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's like a conversation like you guys have with your significant others. Like, babe, like when she comes to me about like, if this happens, you're not home. Like, what do I do? How do I console her and how do I make her comfortable? And then that makes her even more comfortable with just like her body and how she receives men and how she feels about herself. Cause she's like, my dad did all this, nigga. Like, why can't you? Like, that just makes them have like a higher expectation. Yeah. Cause like, I always say that, like, obviously, like I date women too. My standards for them are just a little bit different. That's a different show. But with men, I'm just like, oh hell no! Like my dad, I had a daddy, and I shouldn't say stuff like that. But I just, I had that male figure like constant present. Even when I was 25, 26, into my 30s, he was at my softball games. Like, you know what I mean? Like he was just there. So I just think like what your daughters are what they can use is just like your presence, like not so many words, like just
be there for them.
There.
Yeah, be there for them and be open, just receivable for them, right? Like just be open for them to talk to or whatever. Like I want her just to not see me as like, oh, dad, if I disappoint dad, I'm gonna be in trouble or whatever. You know what I mean?
Or scared to go to you.
Yeah, just to be her person, like her fucking, person that she can trust in as a man. Because if she has questions about a man, I want her to come to me and ask me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the dad is going to be the only one man in her life that's not going to want anything from her.
Yeah, so that's so true.
Yep.
That's so crazy because it just always make her feel safe. Yeah, and that always reminds me of what Dave Chappelle said, where he was like, he got paid in cash, like $100,000 cash, and he was going through New York City, and he's like, and I felt so scared, and for the first time in my life, felt like a woman. Because I had something that everybody wanted.
That's true.
And anybody could take it from me at any given moment. So to understand that, like any man that comes into her life is gonna want something from her, right? But you're gonna be the only person as her father that's not gonna expect anything from her.
Right.
So a friend of mine, we were talking about that, just about clothes, like right, like our clothes have evolved, like for females, like just depending on geography, like clothes are just different, but there's a lot less of them now, like a lot less, we're not as covered up as we once were. And it was a homegirl of mine, and she was just like, well, if you go out like that, then like, the age old question, like, what do you expect? Nothing. I expect that he was raised decently and he can keep his comments in his hands to himself and I can express myself freely and feel safe. That's not always the case, but
always ruin it.
Right. But like, why should I... Obviously, it's my responsibility to keep myself safe, but where were their responsibilities? And just like, even if you weren't raised right, like, why do you feel entitled that you get to come up and talk to me, say something to me because I feel comfortable in something? So why should I be going out on a night out being like, oh, I can't wear that. Like, maybe that's too much. Like, maybe something's going to happen to me in that. Maybe I should, like, you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Y'all don't go through that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hat... forces, like whatever, chain, we're good, but we're just like, oh, this is cute, but this is too much. Like maybe titties are out, maybe too much makeup, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like all these things that we have to think about because somebody's raggedy ass son or the raggedy ass mama didn't teach them how to be respectful, like, you know what I mean? And I just don't. I understand it, and we have to be cognizant. We have to be careful as women, but it just sucks that we have to like put that much thought into everything.
That does suck. Yeah, because I don't have to think about that shit. No woman's gonna come up and grope me and shit like that. It'd be nice. But can you imagine if women were as forward as men sometimes? They just came and just like grabbed you by your fucking shit. It was like, whoa, hey.
They're getting there.
The party started. Like, what the fuck?
I don't know. You'd probably be scared.
I feel like that happens a lot more than we think.
I've only had that happen like 2 times ever. Like especially when I was young, when I used to get like my eyebrows done and shit like that. I remember I went out one time and I was working out a lot because I was wrestling, and me and my friends were out. And this lady, she was older. I was like 23. She was probably like mid-30s, maybe 40. And she comes up and she was like, she was like all over me. She's like, so where did you get this shirt? And like touching on me and stuff like that. And I was like, I felt uncomfortable because I was just there with my boys, and I wasn't even thinking about that. We were at a bar, not a club, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I got it, whatever store. And she goes, oh, well, and just kept going down to my leg and stuff. I was like, yo, like, what the fuck? I don't know what to say. Like, I'm just like sitting there like all stiff, just like, well, anyways.
Yeah. And then people ask all the time why women like stay in weird, awkward situations because like you're just like, oh shit, like what do I do? Like, you know what I mean? So
do you think you have to teach like our daughters and stuff to be kind of blunt, to like just straight up like, no, not interested, no thank you, like right?
For sure, because
no,
I was gonna say we've been conditioned to be nice,
exactly,
polite, like we don't. Like, you don't say that. Like, don't be rude. Like, we're supposed to.
Yeah.
No. I can't even remember her name. I follow this girl on YouTube, and she talks about that. Like, we need to stop being nice. We need to stop being naive. Like, not everybody has a good intention for us. Like, it's okay to tell a man that's walking behind you, say like you're walking down the street, it's okay for you to stop and let him go in front of you. Yeah. Or if he offers you a drink, it's okay to say no thank you. If he offers to buy you a drink, no, I'm good. Like, you know what I mean? But then men sometimes are like, you stink, bitch. Like, why? Like, how come? Why? Like, you too good? Yeah. Like, I don't need your drink. Like, you know what I mean? So definitely, I would hope that we all instill in our daughters that you don't have to accept a man's advances. Like, you need to be able to take care of yourself. One, you don't necessarily have to be rude to everybody, but you just have to be cognizant that not everybody has your best intention at heart. And it's okay to say no, and it's okay to walk away. It's okay to move to the other side of the street. It's okay to tell somebody no if they want to pet your dog. Like, it's like those kind of like just little shit that gets women in like weird situations, not necessarily our fault all the time, but it's okay to say no and walk away. Or like, I'm going to scream if you don't get away from me. Like that kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? But we're just like, oh my God, I don't want to be rude. Like, I don't know. Like,
you might know that I'm nervously saying or laughing or something, but no, they don't pick up that stuff. They're just one track minded, you know, just thinking of, you know, the score or whatever it is. I don't know. Yeah.
So I definitely think, that's something that we've kind of lacked, is like, we're very polite and we don't want to be rude and we don't want to hurt people's feelings. And you have to, especially now, like, you know, so definitely teach your daughters to be vocal. And that's not always like I'm too independent thing. Like, no, nigga, I ain't trying to get murdered. That's all.
On the flip side, I guess, say, was it Jason Momoa or something like that? He's at a party. How do you get his attention? What would you like him to do? Approach you and stuff like that? Or, I don't know. Hypothetical.
If Jason Momoa approached me.
Not that, but a guy. Let's say an ideal guy.
I said I would die. Just dead.
Or whatever. You know.
On site, life support.
Like,
how would I want him to approach me?
Like, okay, you've given this guy the eye. He knows that he kind of has an idea that you like him. Do you, I don't know, do you give cues? Do you go up to them? Or do you, I don't know.
I'm very much like an outgoing type of person. Most girls aren't necessarily like that and won't just like, oh, like I see him over there, like, let's go ask my friends. They're just like, oh my gosh, Charlie, what are you doing? I was like, can I go say hi? Like, the worst you can say to me is no. Again, like, confidence, like, came from my dad. Like, you know what I mean? There's plenty of people out here. So that actually happened not too long ago. Like, we were out and everybody's like, oh my God, he's so cute or whatever. And I went up to the table. I'm like, hey, like, are you guys here alone? Who are you here with? Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? And so it happened, they were alone. Okay, cool. Like, it sparked up a conversation. I've noticed also, like, men sometimes with me, like, they won't come up to me for whatever reason.
I feel like beauty is intimidating.
Oh, thank you.
That's what I think.
But I get that a lot. People are like, oh, you're intimidating, or I wouldn't think that you would talk to me. So, and maybe that's a thing too. Like, I've gotten used to having to like initiate a conversation if I want to talk to somebody because they're not going to talk to me. And on some accord, it's just like, that fucking sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would like someone to be like, oh, like, how, like, what's up? How you doing? Like, you know what I mean? But that doesn't happen to me often. So I personally kind of have to do that. And I've just gotten comfortable with doing that. So I would like to work on myself to figure out like how I can, but I don't even want to do that because like I don't want to like soften myself or like change my demeanor or anything. So somebody comes and talks to me again, like that's just like their confidence level. Like I can't help that, but a lot of people think that I get hit on all the time, and I really don't. Which is funny, but like I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm like, nobody talks to me, like, you know what I mean, and that's fine. But I think it's also like, especially like, you know, growing up here, a lot of guys know me, but like it's just like, oh, Shardy's, she's cool, she's a homie, like, you know what I mean, like we respect her, like we're not trying to smash, like that kind of thing. Like I respect her that way, so I appreciate that. So in that sense, like it's not a big deal. But how would I want somebody to approach me? Just a simple hello. There you go. No creepy shit. No, like, maybe like, do you need anything? Can I buy you something? Give me the chance to say yes or no. Because another thing I noticed, like in the bars, are like, get her what of this. And I'm like, you don't even know if I'm drinking, number one. Like, I don't want that. Like, you could have asked me, can I buy you a drink? It's just like courtesy. Like some fools out here. He's trying. But it's just like, be courteous, like just like, what's your name first? Like, you know what I mean? Or get this pretty lady as something. no, like ask my name first. Like that's flattering, but just like ask my name, maybe a couple questions. I don't know which one of you guys said that earlier. Like get to know them a little bit, like, you know what I mean? Before you just assume that you're all that and we even want to drink.
Right, yeah,
like,
exactly.
Because sometimes, like, get the step in. Like, why are you in my face? And especially if we're, like, out with our girls or something, like, maybe we're not on that. So if somebody was coming up to me, I was just like, a nice hi, how are you? Like, what brings you in? Like, that kind of situation. Like, I'm way more apt to talk to you if you're like that rather than like you just like taking control like I'm a man or whatever, like I'm gonna get you this, like throwing your money around because I don't need it at work. So
closing topic, what are we doing?
Closing topic, man, I'm just having a lot of fun here. I'm having a lot of fun right now. No, but I think that's interesting because I don't know. There's a difference, too, between going out here in Utah and, like, going out other places, right? Where, I remember I went out with our aunt when I was living in Vegas. We went to this biker club, but it was a black biker club.
Oh, okay.
And they're, like, from California and stuff, but they rent out this warehouse in Vegas, and they throw parties, like, huge-ass parties. Mm-hmm. And I fucking shit you not, I have never been approached by more women than being there. And, like, usually when I was used to coming out here and I had to go approach somebody, right, and talk to them. Mm-hmm. But I straight up had this girl, and I made eye contact with her. She was really pretty. Mm-hmm. And she kind of seen me just kind of, like, hanging out. I was hanging out with our aunt and stuff like that. And she looks over at me. She goes, like this, like I'm a fucking female, right?
She summons
and I'm like, whoa. I was like, fuck. I was all nervous. Like, shit, should I go over there? Like, you know, all right, I'm going to go over there. I go over there and she's chilling. She's like pretty as fuck too. But she leans up. She goes, so where are you from? You know, I haven't seen you around here. What's up? And this and that. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm from Utah. And then she starts laughing. She goes, where the fuck? How the fuck are you from Utah? Like Utah?
Everybody's like, where is that?
But she started the whole conversation. So, and I've had that a lot more out. Like when I used to bodyguard out in San Diego, I had women approach me at the door.
Same.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, like this is so different. Like usually I would have to either initiate or something, right? Or like I would have to know a girl through a group of friends to even like be able to approach somebody, but they're just open out in different states.
Yeah.
And I like 3 fucking ladies came up to me that were hitting on me while I was guarding the door. Mm. But this one who was also very pretty, she comes out and she was this, oh man, beautiful, like, you know, brown skinned girl. And she's like, what are you doing here at the door? Like, she's like, you should be working inside because you're eye candy. And I was like, what? Like, started to turn red. But it's just crazy, like the contrast.
I'm just filling in.
Yeah, it's just the contrast of like going out here, and especially in Ogden, like where we know a lot of people and shit like that.
Which I hate.
Yeah, it's just different.
So yeah, I don't know. Like working in the airport, like I'll have people like come from Africa or something, you know, and be here for a little bit, and then they're like, "Yeah, do you even like it living out here?" And I'm like, "It's okay," but she'll ask like, you know, another African girl that I'm working with, and she's like, "Yeah, it's fine." She's like, "Well, I just noticed that people keep to themselves a lot, and I think it's true. I don't know why we do.
Right?
Why do you think we do here in Utah?"
I don't know. I just think it's for one thing, they don't know if you're LDS or not. So they don't want to approach you and talk to you and you know, and this and that because you're a Gentile. But also the other thing is it's that small town syndrome. Small town syndrome. Like you only know who you know. You know, like when I lived in Vegas, and you can probably say this too because you lived out there for a while. Like you meet new people every day, at the grocery store. Like you out here, I can go to the store and it could be like a couple aisles are empty, or I'll see the same guy I seen 2 days ago. Right out there in a big city, it's a new person every day, new people every day. And you're meeting new people, and they're not shy either. They're more open to talk to you and stuff. And so you're meeting, like actually talking, conversating with them. Here, that doesn't happen a lot. So when they see a stranger, they're just like, well, I don't know them, so I'm just going to kind of keep to myself, you know?
Or do you think people think like more highly of themselves out here or something to even like want to talk to somebody?
I just think it's nerves. Yeah, I think it's just the small town.
I'm just thinking like the everyday person you see out. I don't know.
I've heard like the opposite, like from people who are like coming out here. They're like, oh, like people in Utah are friendly. Like
stuff like that.
People are like super friendly. But are you saying like why do people keep to themselves like in social settings?
I guess in social settings. I guess.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, I think it's part of like just like the way that the generation has evolved. Like people they're not as open. Like everybody just wants to seem too cool. Like nobody like like, think about how we even, like, kick it now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like how we used to dance, like, on our stomps. Like, you know what I mean? At our house parties, like, we used to, like, everybody mingled. Like, it's just very siloed here to where, like, everybody kind of has, like, created their own cliques, their own bubbles. Yeah. And it's kind of like high school. Right. Like, in adult world. And I don't know why that is necessarily. But I think it depends on, like, how far you want to go back, because I think the climate of the world has changed drastically over the last 3 years. And so it's, like, kind of hard to figure out where people are. Mm-hmm. So, like, do you want to go up to somebody and, you know, like, it shouldn't matter, like, like your political beliefs, but I think the last few years, 3 years, have divided people so much to where it's not the same. Like, we just don't interact the same. Like, one, we were just, like, in our house for however long. Like, and now some people are just weirdos. Like, you know what I mean? Not weirdos, but, like, it's just hard, like, to communicate. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know if, like, we've noticed this as, like, a phenomenon, like, across just the state, or if it's, like, been in the last little while, in the last few years, because, like, I feel like now, like, yeah, everybody's just like, okay, I gotta get what I gotta get, and I gotta get out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have time to conversate. And then we can't, and everybody has a mask on. You're just like, okay, like, I don't have no idea what you just said, but, like, the communication barrier is, like, really high now, especially, like, after, can we say the C word?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you say coronavirus after COVID, like, I think we've lost a lot of social skill.
Yeah, I think so too. And it was crazy. Like, were you single through 2020?
Yes.
Did you date at all during the pandemic and shit?
Not through the pandemic. So I guess I dated this past 2021. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So I fucking was dating during the pandemic, and it was so weird. Oh yeah, I don't because like dates, like, you can't go anywhere, right? A lot of places were closed still, especially during like lockdown times and shit. And I was just openly dating, and so it was like walks at the park or like outside stuff, because like I usually would like go take them to dinner or whatever like that. But it was just so weird, and I always thought, I was like, damn, it's so weird dating in the fucking pandemic, you know. And then I had a steady, I guess, girlfriend, because we were going on dates and stuff a lot. During the summer of 2020, and then we ended up getting back with Lauren. But yeah, but it was just weird. Like, I wondered who else dated and went through the dating shit in 2020, because it was just so strange.
Saving money.
Yeah, it was like, dating before 2020.
Said economically, it wasn't bad.
But it was crazy.
What I wanted to say about let me try to gather the thoughts. Okay, so like, let's get scattered. But anyways, so people who drive and see, like, you know, car crashes on the side, right? And it could be a small car crash, like, on the freeway, right? Out here, people slow down and, like, watch. Like, we watch things, right? And then, like, I was, say, going to Miami and stuff like that. People don't give a fuck. There's a car that's on fire. Yeah. It's a nice Lamborghini. They're just going.
Flying, right?
So I think that says something about our culture. And then also, like, going to Atlanta, like, people are, like, loud there. They're expressive. Right. It's fun. But out here, I think people just feel like it's so quaint and quiet. You have to be that way. So anybody who draws attention or something, they'll look at you or something. Right. So they don't want to bring that. I don't know. That's what I wanted to bring to.
Well, I just think it also depends on, like, the groups that you're in. Yeah. So, like, especially, like, this being a predominantly, you know, Mormon state here. So I feel like, and what I've learned, I guess, I'm learning from, like, a friend of mine is, like, Mexicans and blacks, like, in other places don't fuck with each other. Like, that's not like and to me growing up here, like, that's all, like, we all hang out together. Like, so I don't get it. But I guess she's saying, like, traditional Mexicans and, like, their dads and stuff don't want their sons or daughters dating black. I didn't know that because, like, everybody's got a mixed kid out here. And so, like, I didn't understand that. So I think it has a lot to do with, like, where you're at, like, even in Utah, because, like, we have these pockets, like, right? So, like, Lehigh or Saratoga Springs or fucking somewhere like Bluffdale. I just learned about Bluffdale. Is drastically different from an Ogden or a Clearfield or a Lake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just like a different demographic of people. So I think it just depends on like geographically, like where you are still in the state. So I don't like the people I hang out with are a lot more similar to me, but I've also developed really great friendships with people who are completely opposite of me, and they've been like godsends. And so that's what I'm saying. I think we, even being what we want to say, like diverse here,
diverse friendship,
right? Like we have diversity in our friendships. I think like we also still need to be able to step outside and be like, oh, like I'm cool, like hanging out with like a dude that's gonna go backpack through Europe, but instead of saying like, that's some white people shit. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, being open-minded. Because, like, I've met 2 really great people over the last 2 years who've, like, shown me so much stuff and who've taught me so much that it's invaluable to me. Like, I can't imagine not have meeting them because, like, I was in a bubble to some extent. Like, you know? So, I appreciate that. And I think that's something that us... you know, the more diverse people here in Utah or in these smaller towns, like we need to embrace that more so that we're not so secluded from or segregated from each other. And like we need to go out into different places and make our presence known, whatever that looks like, whether it's like going out volunteering, whatever. But I think it's our job to insert ourselves in those rooms that we probably wouldn't have been in the first place, instead of just being comfortable where we are, because then we're always going to have that complaint, like Utah's this, Utah's that. Well, did you go out of your way to
or do that?
Make yourself like known, like to put a different perspective of like what we are to these people? So I think instead of like less of this and more of like this, like, you know what I mean? Walking into those rooms. So that's just something that I've been trying to do over the last, I mean, I've always been like that. It's like, I just like people, but I think that's definitely our responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's well said, because people do get stuck in their social norms and they only know the people that they know. They never go outside of that. And then all of a sudden, like the people that you know start meeting other people and you're just stuck and then you don't know anybody. You know what I mean?
They don't want to break their identity or something. But
and you have to. You got to shatter barriers. You got to break down walls. You got to experience new things, because you don't want to just be the same person for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got to go out and you got to step in those other rooms, meet new people, explore new things, do different things that you thought you wouldn't do. It's just so important for self-growth.
So when it comes to like, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say like that. I don't know how much time we have, but the Pete Davidson, Kim Kardashian thing with like differences, he's totally different.
Right.
Like I know that like that was something that's like big that's going on right now. And like people are like Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson, and it's just like she's stepping out of her like norm, and she's like, these fucking niggas I'm working with, I don't like that ain't working. So
the tall, skinny, white, blonde, because Courtney and who else was it? Like
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox. So it's like kind of.
So she's trying to keep up.
I don't know.
I think that's even more weird than Pete Davidson and Kim. But that's what I'm saying. Kim's just like, who cares? Like what people think. Like I'm just gonna step out of my box. He's funny. Yeah. Like I'm sorry. Like you can be. We were talking about appearances earlier. You can be ugly as hell, and if you make me laugh, like I forget all of that. Like you start to look like Michael B. Jordan because you're funny. Like you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying when people are just like, oh my God, why is she with him? I'm like he has a good heart. He's seemingly, I don't know Pete Davidson, but he has a good heart. He's funny. Yeah. Like, he's taking her to do things that she probably wouldn't do. She doesn't have to be on all the time. She doesn't have to be Kim K all the time. Okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's nice to be around someone who just lets you let your guard down and just be yourself. So she really probably appreciates that piece about him. So it's not even about looks. He's dumb rich. I mean, still... But it's like with Kanye, she's always doing like damage control. She's always like they expect them to be like a power couple. She has to be on. They have the kids, like blah, blah, blah. But Pete probably brings out that, you know, the jovial side of her. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And that's like what women appreciate too. It's just like, we just want to laugh. Like, we just want someone to like listen and just like, it's not all about us, like how Roman said, like I like you just like being here, like spending the time with me. Like that's what's important to me. It's not even necessarily like what you look like all the time, or just like you even putting the effort in to it. Like when you do want to look a certain, you know what I mean? Like doing that for me is important. So I don't mind that situation.
Yeah. Do you think she would be with a Pete Davidson? And this is not saying anything about her character, but like, do you think she'd be with a Pete Davidson if he wasn't Pete Davidson or something? Like, could we think of any just a standard, you know, tall guy, blonde hair, light skin? Or do you think like, I don't know, do you think she doesn't have to, she can do whatever she wants, but like, you know, date somebody in that same,
got you, like tier of people.
Yeah, tier of people. Or
it probably helps, right?
Yeah.
But then this is a callback to what we were talking about earlier too. Maybe if her and Kanye were in a little bit more of an open relationship, things would be okay. Because apparently he had been seeing somebody too.
Yeah.
You think Kanye would be okay with
Kanye trying to be like,
of all people?
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, if they had that agreement and shit, because they both seem like they're not that type of people. Anyways, I mean, Kanye's been in so many fucking relationships. Yeah. You know what I mean? Off and on. Kim K's, we all know her track record, right? Yeah. But no, that's bad. It's just that maybe they're not monogamous people. You know what I mean? Maybe they should have.
They should have had.
Maybe they should have had that agreement, and they wouldn't have this fucking divorce that might end with Kim K taking half his collection. You know what I mean?
She got her own money, but I don't feel like. I feel like Kim is a monogamous person. Like she does want that, but Kanye, he's on some other shit. Like he has given her no other choice. Like you know what I mean? Like I feel like if he. Not even normal. Like, I think we've all known, like, Kanye just got, like, a couple screws loose, which is what makes him great and genius. Like, you know what I mean? But maybe Kim just isn't, like, the female to be okay with that. Like, and that's fine. She's like, maybe some other bitch can deal with this, but it's not me. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I just feel like in that situation, I think Kim is very much monogamous. And she wants the family because, like, look at all the shit she's been through, the sex tape, and like, she's been through like so much stuff, like over the years. Like, she wants to settle down, and maybe she doesn't want all of the extra, but like Kanye, he wants all the sauce, he wants all the barbecue, the mayonnaise, like he needs all of that, like you know what I mean. And he's maybe not to that place. He got to a place where he's like, I want my kids back, I love you, blah blah blah. Like, nigga, like you should have done that before. Like she was like. Doing damage control, she was covering up for you, like too little, too late at some point, like you know what I mean. So
that's us as guys. We will mess up, we'll make mistakes, but I don't know.
But you have to admit it quickly.
Yeah,
right.
He's
got too big
slow.
of an ego.
Yeah,
he's so egotistical. He probably can't even admit where he's wrong or where he's falling short. You know what I mean?
Unless it's too late.
Yeah, and then it's too late. Like he fucking got checked to the mental institution, and she was there through the whole breakdown. You know what I mean? By his side and shit like that.
You talk shit about her mom?
Yeah.
You can't do that.
All right.
About Chris.
Speaking about Kim K, so like her, you know, becoming a lawyer and stuff and like freeing people and like actually fighting for people of color and stuff. Do you feel like, because what I've heard is like in order to change the system, you have to change it from within. You can't, you know, the outside, you know, just like chanting or whatever, you know, not really working. Do you think that has to be the case? Like we need more people to go in the system and change it from the inside, or do you think it's too rotten? Or I don't know.
No, I mean,
I'm not saying it's that bad, but yeah.
No, it's that bad.
Yeah,
it's definitely that bad.
Yeah,
no, it's definitely that bad.
I think I agree with it. You do have to change it from the inside out, and that's why it's so important for people to like get educated on like who's running for office and like who's running for senator and stuff like that. Because for so long it was just kind of like, I don't know. To me, especially like in Latin community and like African American community and stuff like that, it was just like, okay, well that's like the white people stuff. Like they vote, we don't vote, you know?
Yeah.
And then like only recently within the last 20 years, I've seen more people become like involved in like politics as far as this is who we should vote in, this is who we should vote out. But more people were educated on who's running and we can change it. You know, we have to say so.
One more step than just researching who's running, because even people who are running still have those traditional values and standards. So we have to actually find somebody and elect them to push them instead of, just seeing who's there.
Right, yeah. Don't just look at who's being pushed to you, right? Don't just look at who's being pushed to you, because that's that's for their agenda too.
Yeah.
You know, they're putting people in the forefront so that you can see them. Like, just look at this, don't look at the person behind the curtain. You know what I mean? So you got to look at behind the curtain, see who's actually going to be aligned with what you believe or aligned with your values or what you're struggling with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of people are like, it's funny how Republicans or people who vote Republican Party are voting against their own self-interest, because most Republicans are rich. They don't care. They just want to keep the norm, like, you know, capitalism and this and that. And these poor people are voting them in because they think that they're going to get a piece of the pie, when really they're like, oh, fuck you guys. Like, I just needed your vote, you know? And so you got to research people who are actually from where you're from or know the life that you've lived. And there's always going to be people who you can relate to, you know what I mean? So if you just do the research, find somebody.
That's a job too, though, to be relatable.
To try to be relatable.
To talk with, you know, such.
Yeah. But it's not, it's more, they have a bigger responsibility to then just be relatable, because like Joe Biden, he did all this talking and now he's struggling and ain't doing nothing for the people he said he was going to do anything for. You don't even see that fool anywhere. So like, where are you? But that's what I'm saying. So like, even before, obviously, like, we need a leader of the country, maybe, because these last few years have been just crazy. But that's why, like, local level voting is important. Like, how many of us vote in our cities, like, to figure out who's going to be sitting on our benches, because that directly affects us. Yeah. So I just feel like that needs to be the first step. And that's where I have been getting more involved in just like our city and what's actually going on in the political realm, I guess, and just trying to figure out, like, okay, obviously I wasn't really like too into that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I was in student government or whatever in high school. I've always wanted to be able to help people, but just seeing how much our elected officials just in our state and local city, just, you know, who's running the, you know, the city council members, just those little things can drastically change, like, what happens here. Like, I've just come to the conclusion, like, as much as we all want to, we can't change the world, but we can change, like, our own environments. Yeah. And so, like, that's what I'm personally just trying to do, is, like, just figure out where I fit in that and where I can bring others into that too, to, like, how you said, Blacks, Hispanics, people of color. We're just like, well, it doesn't affect us. Right. It does in a great way. But then we complain crazy when something doesn't go our way. Like, well, were you at the poll? Did you read it? Like you said, like how you said, like, it's reading what these people are about. It's just taking that extra time. We take that extra time to be on Pinterest, to be on social media, to read. Why do we know so much about Kanye West and Kim Kardashian? Because it's pushed on us, Right, but how many people do we, like, how many of us know who's in our city offices? Like, you know what I mean? But we know all about everybody else's life. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think we just have to prioritize. But once we see more people who look like us, and that's just, like, my main goal. It might be 5-10 years from now, but I'm hoping that people are like, oh, like, Shardae's cool. Like, you know what I mean? She's, like, a real person. She's, you know, trying to make change. Like, she's in office. Like, I can do, like, little girls, little, you know, people of color, like, even not people of color. Like, I want even little white kids to be like, oh, there's Black people, like, and Mexican people, like, Asian people, like, whatever, that are representing us, and, like, make that normal to them. Yeah. Because, like, as fucked up as it sounds, is like, there's a generation that's just, they're just gone. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like that's kind of like our parents, like our parents' generation. There's some of them that are, you know, that are on the right side, but they're very cynical, and they're just like, well, what, like, can't do anything. It's just like our government, like, you know what I mean? They're not even trying. So they're the ones with the Twitter fingers. Okay, cool, mom, dad, like, you don't have to do that. Like, you guys are set in your ways. Like, let us come in and do it. So I'm just hoping that there can be more of us to show our kids, show your kids, show your kids. So by time your newborn baby is 5, 10, it's normal for her to see people that look like us running these cities, like making the decisions for her in the school districts and the schools that she's going to be going to. That's and important. As parents, that's super important for you guys, because a lot of crazy shit going on in these schools that you definitely don't want your kids to be subjected to. And when they are, that's when people want to get activated and energized and do something about it. But why don't we take preventative measures so that doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Proactive.
Yeah, yes. That's so true. And we kind of talked about that on the last episode that we did, where people use their free time just to entertain themselves instead of educate themselves.
Yep.
Just slice a little bit of time in your day. We all got 24 hours, take 20 minutes to just research what's going on with whatever, local government or whatever, especially school boards. I really think people, especially parents, need to be more involved in like school boards and like who's running the schools. Like, are they people who grew up with a lot of minorities in a majority minority school, right? Or are they not? Because if you get somebody who doesn't understand the perspective of those kids, they're not going to know what to do or what policies to implement to protect or help those kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's very important. I haven't thought about this because my son, there was an incident in his school with his friend where a white kid, called him bad word, right? And the whole school got involved, but it wasn't until 4 days later because the teacher didn't report it. The teacher didn't report it. It was Weber County. So the teacher didn't report it, and one of the kids had to tell the other teacher what happened. And then she's like, investigated it, and then found out that the kid said, this kid said that to me, and the teacher didn't report it. So now that teacher got in trouble, but it should have been reported the same day it happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that teacher probably didn't think it was a big deal because she's white, and she's like, well, get over it. I've been told that by white teachers. Yeah. Like I've been called like something like racial and stuff, like, well, you gotta develop a thick skin, get over it. And it's like, what the fuck? But if it was a teacher who grew up like me, or a principal who knew my situation, or a superintendent, you know what I mean? Then they would be like, okay, I've been through this too. I know exactly what to do. This is the policy we have to implement, or this is the punishment that comes with it. You know what I mean? So I was just thinking about after that happened, I was like, damn, like we should get the parents all together to discuss this and figure it out. Cause this is our children's futures at stake. Like if that kid is able to say that and not get punished for it, he's going to think he can say that the rest of his life. That's true. You know what I mean? So
I'm part of the Diversity Commission here in Ogden, and that's kind of what our mission is, to kind of address all things diversity, from school boards to LGBTQ issues, from, language barriers, all that stuff, just to make sure that everybody's inclusive and just getting feedback from the community on how we can do better as a community, and make sure that everybody has a space and somewhere safe to go to. And one of the commissioners that sits on the commission with me, like that's what she's wanting to do. And, she has a son that, is autistic, and she's just seeing like what's happening in these schools and how much they need advocates for them. Yeah. So she said, instead of me waiting for these people to like advocate for my son, because like nobody's going to advocate for your kids like you are. Right. So so that's just kind of like my hope for all of us is like, and maybe it's not the school board, maybe it's not city council, maybe it's like whatever it is, like a topic or an issue that's going to affect you. I just don't like hearing it if you're not going to do anything about it. So for her in particular, I respect it because she's seeing how it's affecting her own son. And she's like, I'm not going to wait for these people to care about my son. They're never going to care about my son. I have to have a seat at that table to make sure that he gets what he needs. So I just feel like maybe our generation now, because we're young, like y'all young parents. And so sometimes we just don't know where to start. And sometimes you just got to begin at the begin. And I feel like it starts with the parents, because sometimes I feel like parents like rely heavily on these teachers and these school boards to almost raise their kids in a sense. Like, you know what I mean? Because they're with them for so long, like many hours out of a day. The kids come home, you only have homework. And you gotta unwind or get ready for bed. So parents don't have that much time, not faulting the parents, but I'm just saying like we have to take it, especially like minority parents, we have to take it upon ourselves to, because like the whole critical race theory thing, that's probably another episode, but like just teaching our kids like what that is, because if they take that out of schools, that's on us, like, or else our kids are not ever going to know what that looks like. You have Black kids, your kids are Asian, right? So that's a whole nother thing as well that they're going to have to learn about. And that, you know, their culture, they're not going to tell them that in school. Right. Like, it's our job to do that.
I'm of that mindset, like, because, like, I would love to, you know, participate or know about things, but my main focus is her mindset, how to handle situations, how to, you know, just prep her for things, instead of just her kind of just going into situations and, like,
blinded.
Doesn't, you know, don't know how to react or something like that. So just, preparation
and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy, especially because, like, I think of all the stuff that I'd gone through, but it's a little bit, I want to feel like it's a little bit different now. Like, I wanted to feel like my son wasn't going to go through as much stuff as I've gone through, like, racially and stuff like that. But he is, like, now that he's getting older.
It's always the same, because it's like, it's been that way too. And then it's like,
I'm hoping I was hoping it's better, you know. But then after hearing about this, especially this incident, I was like, what the hell? Like, really? That's still, like, you know, but it's taught at home. I know it's a taught thing. So that kid was taught that word, you know, by his parents, or heard his parents say it and stuff. I mean, even like I told you, like, even in family settings, what's crazy about Latino families is that there's so much diversity, because Latinos an ethnicity, but we have different races in our family, right? We got Asian, we got Black, and, you know, even mixed white kids and stuff like that. And then there's colorism amongst cousins and stuff. And you go through that, you know, and my son experiences that sometimes too, which I experienced a lot. And I always hoped he wouldn't experience that, because, like, we're coming in a different age or whatever, but it's still the same. It still feels the same. And so we do got to take that upon ourselves to, like, teach our kids, but also be involved with what's going on in the school too. Like, what are they being taught? And that's why, like, critical race theory is so important to push for and to push to keep in school, because if they're not taught at the school where they're spending majority of their day, where else are they going to learn it? You know what I mean?
I feel like at home. So, like, if that does, I mean, and think about it. Like, do we want these teachers teaching our kids that type of history?
That's true.
Yeah.
Like, what are they going to leave out? What are they going to say? Like, you know what I mean? And they're going to come home like, Mom, Dad, they said this. Like, whoa, what? Like, you know what I mean? So, like, we're at the mercy of them. So, like, send them to school. A lot of parents have to, like, that's great, like, whatever. Not every parent can homeschool their kids, but I just feel like and I don't know, but I just would like to, like, when I become a parent, that's going to be part of, like, what we do at night, and, like, what we talk about is, like you said, is preparing them. Because this is going to happen, whether it's today, tomorrow, next year. Like, you just need to know it's going to happen. And everything that, you know, happened around, you know, Stop Asian Hate. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just had a baby. And, like, how would you explain that to her? Like, how would you go about making her feel valid and feel comfortable, and have her understand, like, why that's even happening? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to rely on the teacher to teach her that. Like, you know what I mean? And you having biracial kids, like, you know what I mean? You almost you have to, you know, flip it both ways. Like, you have to teach them about your Hispanic side, your Mexican side, Lauren's Black side. So there's just, like, a lot going on. And so we can't possibly expect these teachers to even scratch the surface of that without our kids being low-key traumatized about what they didn't know because we didn't tell them. And then blaming teachers because they didn't tell them that. Well, they didn't live that probably.
That's true.
Because there are some good teachers out there that, like, you know, are exceptional, but there are some teachers who just do their job. And there are some teachers who kind of only care about only a few or something. So that's just the way the world is. So you gotta kind of kindly let it to them in a eased way. This is just how it works.
Right. That's crazy. Crazy.
So I'm looking to you guys to figure out what to do with my kids when I'm 40.
When is this gonna happen?
That's just a funny question.
2022?
Yo, I don't know what I'm doing. I know I want them. Everybody's like, oh, you never wanted, I'm 33 at this point. I don't like one, but I think that's cruel too. Like, you shouldn't do that to a kid. my dad was the only child. I'm like, whoa. I know I want kids. Just like, obviously my situation, my, orientation, whatever, that kind of hindered that. Like, the instability of it all. Like, I didn't want to bring a kid into the world, but obviously I didn't want a kid when I was 16. When I was 20, I was 20. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, now I feel like I'm a lot more prepared and mature and, like you said, like, you had to mature and grow up to be able to handle certain situations. You're glad that you had, maybe handled your son a little bit different than you did before because, like, you have more tools. And I just feel like I'm more ready. But, and a lot of women are choosing to have kids on their own and be single parents. And that's awesome. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Right. But if I don't have to, like, I would rather not. I would rather have my child in a 2-parent household for as long as I can, whether that's, me and a male, me and a female, with the understanding that it might not work out and then I'll go from there. But I know I want kids. Just we talked about the dating situation. It's just like, it's hard. I don't think dating apps are really for me. I don't think I'm going to say it's weird. It's weird for me just because it's weird for me. So I don't know that I'm actively seeking out dating right now, but if it finds me, it finds me. But when am I going to have kids? I don't know. I'm just getting used to being not by myself, just like how you said, like, just finding yourself again and just getting used to being single. But I definitely want that. And I think I've come a long way and learned a lot more about myself to where I would be a good mom. Like, no parent has a handbook with these children that they come with. But I definitely want that. I definitely want to experience that. Because sometimes I'm just like the crazy friend without kids that like also has her shit together. But it's like, I'm done with homework, work's over, let's go party. But I'm just like, oh, it'd be nice to have like a little cute baby just to like cuddle with and like watch Netflix with her. Yeah, thank you. So like one day, like I'm not rushing anything. Like I just want to try to find a person, like you said, you're compatible with and you can have those hard conversations with, and really, because like they say opposites attract. I believe that to an extent, but I also feel like you have to have similar core values at the end of the day also. Like, you cannot be completely opposite on what you think. So I want to be able to have somebody that I can trust and know that if I pass away or something happens to me, I trust that person to raise my child. I am leaving my child in a good person's hand. And we were talking, my friends were talking about it, but especially with men, like one thing that kind of weeds them out is when they are homophobic or they, and I try to be open-minded to everybody, but I'm like, oh my God, say certain things like, I couldn't deal with it. My son was gay. Like, I couldn't do X, Y, or Z. Like, you know what I mean? I live that life. I can't be with a man who has that kind of toxic mindset. So it's really important to me to find someone who's open and who's going to love my son, our daughter, regardless. Like, they're not a big macho, like, oh my God, like, no, like, you know what I mean? And that's hard for dads, I'm sure, especially with their sons, but I don't ever want my kid to feel how these kids feel out here. Cause like, we never know how anybody's going to turn out. So I just don't, all those things are important to me. Yeah. So like, I'm not just out here like with anybody, like, you know what I mean? I ask hard questions and people think I'm crazy for that.
So you ask the questions.
That's good.
Oh, I ask all the questions. That's my friends like, bro, like, why would you ask them that? We were in the bar one time and I was like, do you have a job, a car, a 401k? Like, what are you doing? Like, why am I talking to you? And my sister was like, what is wrong with you? You just met him. I'm like, I don't have time to waste. I'm 33. So like, maybe that was like a little extreme, but I'm just like, I need to know, like, you know what I mean? Like 8 years of my life is gone.
Right.
I don't have another 8. So my eggs don't either. So, you know, I look young on the outside, but you know, things going on in there. So I just need to know so I'm not wasting my time. But
Yeah, and it'll happen. You know, hopefully it happens when it's meant to happen. I like to believe that, right? But just I just hope that you do find somebody that you are comfortable with and you can have that and share that with them and even not be together. You know, sometimes it works out that way. You have you have a kid with somebody and the relationship's still good. Like you can be parents without being together. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I've done it. It works, you know, if as long as you are present. Yeah, as long as you're present, you put your priorities straight, it can work. So